All right.
Okay, now we're ready to go.
Okay, perfect. All right. Take it away, Karen. We can introduce everybody and
Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody who's attending today, all of our participants, and of course, our chefs who are alum of NCC. Joining us today, we have Tyler Baxter, class of 2013. He's come back home to NCC as one of our culinary instructors, but he is also the executive chef at Notch.
Oh, not that part. Just NCC.
Oh, you're not doing the Notch anymore?
No, ma'am.
Oh,
just here full time.
Just here full time. All right. Well, he was the executive chef at Notch. Dan Drake, class of 01, hospitality manager for the Highlights Foundation, and I'm anxious to hear all about that. Brett Giacchetta, who is the class of 03 and executive chef at the Wooden Match, and I believe he told me that he is opening up another restaurant in the Makunji area, so we'll hear about that. Unfortunately, Rachel Musler, who graduated in 2019 and is working at Disney World, is not able to join us today, so hopefully we'll get her back at another time. Luke Paulus, class of 08, is executive chef at Great Wolf Lodge, and Sarah Garrison, class of 08, is a pastry chef formerly with Wind Creek. So welcome. We're so happy that you're with us today. And I think what we'll do is we'll just start at the top with Tyler and ask you to just tell us a little bit about your educational and professional journey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been encompassed entirely in the Lehigh Valley. Started after high school, needed a job, needed something to do to pay my bills because I was living on my own, and I found the restaurant industry and, never really looked back. I began serving, dishwashing, kind of doing everything under the sun, that pertained to culinary / hospitality. And really just got a really good sense of accomplishment and, of happiness from it, honestly. And, just kept pushing myself, kept pushing other people around me, to get to the level that I'm at today. And, I'm very happy and thankful to be back at Northampton, as an instructor. And, the goal is to be sending out people into the workforce who are, just as passionate and, as diligent in doing the job as I was, and I will continue to be. And it's exciting stuff. But, cutting my teeth, doing all sorts of stuff, opening multiple restaurants in the area. We opened the Bayou, and I opened Grain in Allentown. And then after that, I was the chef at Tapas for a little while. And then I was the executive chef at Emerald's Chop House at the Sands at the time. And then opened Notch and did that for about a little over 2 years. And, the doors opened at the right time, and I was able to, pursue something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And that was come back to Northampton to, start helping out the greater good.
That's great. Thank you, Tyler. And I just want to encourage our participants today, if you have questions, you can enter them into the chat at any time. After our chefs are completed speaking with us, we have some basic questions that we can kick it off with, but we do want to encourage you all to ask questions as well. Thanks, Tyler. Daniel Drake. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello, everyone. Kind of a similar story to Tyler. I started off dishwashing and prep cooking all through high school and even through college. Really found a passion for what I was doing. I went on to become the head chef for Silver Bridges Resorts, which is up here in the Northern Poconos. And then I was the head chef for the Starwood Hotels, which owned the Caesars Pocono Resorts, all three of those. I had a stint actually working for a small farm-to-table resort, which then turned me into ice carving. I actually was an ice carver for a couple years of my career, and got to travel around the countryside and meet a lot of great people, a lot of great chefs who did double duty. And as time went on, I started a family and decided it was time to maybe take a sidestep, but I wanted to keep my feet in the industry. So I did take a step into hospitality management, and that's where I am currently today. It's a great experience, and like Tyler said, just the people you get to meet over the years is just phenomenal. It's a great experience.
What is it exactly that you do for the, well, first of all, why don't you tell everybody about the Highlights Foundation?
Sure, absolutely. The Highlights Foundation is actually a nonprofit organization, which is a division of Highlights, the magazine, which is a corporate company. We are in extreme northern Poconos, just about to the New York border. And what we currently do is we host writing retreats and workshops for authors, editors, publishers, and we serve strictly farm to table food.
Great. Thank you. I remember
Thank
the
you.
Highlights magazine growing up. That has been around for a very, very long time.
It has, and little did I know it was in my backyard.
Right. I thought, yeah, same thing. When I saw that you were just, a couple hours north of here, I was kind of surprised. So thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Brett, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your background, your education, your journey, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, I was growing up, and food was always a big part of my life and my family. I started working when I was 14. I started working at like Allentown Fair and Mayfair. I mean, my first jobs, I was doing 14, 16-hour days. From there, I got my first restaurant job at Friendly's by the mall, dishwashing, then moved to the line. And then from there, I realized that I like to cook and graduated high school, went to Northampton. I was working at Red Robin while I was going to school, went to a bunch of restaurants, worked at Lafayette College for about 4 years. Went in 2011, a friend of mine who is the current general manager of the Wooden Match came to me and said, "Hey, I have this coming in." So we did it, and it was rough at first, and then we opened up the Artisan Wine and Cheese Cellars next to it in 2013. From there, we just recently opened up a pizza shop in Makunji, and just same as everybody else. I mean, just on the grind, just cooking and trying to get up and get to where I am today.
Great. Thank you. Luke, class of 08, you're up at Great Wolf Lodge, a little bit different from what everybody else is doing. What can you tell us about your journeys?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for having me today. So cooking for me started off really, really young. I was the kid at the counter trying to bake cookies, with my grandmother and my mother. It progressed slowly. When I got into high school, I went through Bethlehem Vo-Tech, very familiar with their program. That really set me on the path to NCC as well. Went through NCC. At the time, I was working at a country club down in Bath. After I graduated, I went and I started working at a smaller restaurant up in Wing Gap. I was there for a little over 2 years, called Beck's, and then slowly worked my way to the casino. I was at Sands at the time, obviously Wind Creek now. I got a chance to work at 2 of the restaurants there. I was at St. James Gate when it was still there, and eventually moved over to Emerald's Italian. I believe that, yeah, they're both gone now. After that, I left there and I went up to work at Mount Airy. I was there for the, Sarah's laughing because we worked together there. Went up to Mount Airy. After that, I actually took over their steakhouse at the time. That was probably one of my favorite restaurants to run because I got to be the most creative and had kind of full reign there. I got to go through the transition that Mount Airy had. So after the steakhouse, the Italian restaurant, and the diner closed, We reopened with a outside management company, so I got to open Guy Fieri's, and I also got to open Bistecca by Il Molino. So I got to see that kind of corporate component. After that, I moved over, I actually followed the executive chef of the property over to Camelback. I opened that property. I was there for 5 years. That was my first kind of foray into the indoor water park realm. Definitely a little bit eye-opening after being in casinos for most of my career. And then most recently, I am at Great Wolf Lodge. I'm just shy of about 3 years there now as executive chef, with plans to obviously keep going. I know I was actually just recently in Chicago, able to do some of the menu development stuff for our lodges. We were working on the buffet menu for all the 19 lodges that we have. So some really cool stuff.
I'm just curious,
Mhm.
Camelback and Blue Mountain were recently sold
Yes.
to a larger company.
Mhm.
Has that made a big difference in how you work, or?
So I was on the tail end. I actually saw Camelback went through 3 management companies in the time I was there. The first one was Stan Rock out of Wisconsin Dells. They own a water park in Wisconsin Dells being kind of the indoor water park capital of the world. Then I went through Highgate, which I know a lot of the chefs are probably familiar with Highgate. They own quite a few hotel chains and manage them. And then lastly, KSL, which was definitely a big transition for us because KSL is more the ski resort side of things and definitely a new approach to F&B from what before. They had a lot of different processes for sure compared to the kind of cookie cutter standard business hotel approach that Highgate had.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sarah, we want to hear all about being a pastry chef.
Well, I guess my journey started a little bit different. I actually, at the time that I went to school, I thought that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. So I actually went to school for early education, like early childhood, and then I figured I had to learn to cook, so then I went for culinary. And I kind of fell in love with being in the kitchen, the whole energy, everything. But my issue was I am an incredibly picky eater. So I ended up falling into baking because I didn't want to try anything that I was cooking. I didn't want to, it's just not me. So that's how I ended up in baking. I started at Mount Airy. I worked the buffet, handing out desserts, and then I moved myself into the back, into the kitchen, started prepping and doing production. And then the casino opened, Sands. So I went there. I was there forever. I think probably about 8 years at Emerald's Chop House as just one of the pastry cooks, just helping with production and running the line at night. Then Kalahari was opening. So I got the position as assistant pastry chef at Kalahari. So we went through that, did all the opening there. And then I ended up going back to Sands when Buddy V's opened as their pastry chef. Then they closed, but I kind of transitioned myself downstairs into what is now the bake shop that we opened. So that's really been it. We've just been taking over everything. We did all the restaurant production, banquet production. We kind of took everything over as we could. And now I transitioned back into stay-at-home mom at what I originally started my journey as.
Was it a difficult transition, stepping back from pastry chef to the all-important role of mom, which is probably harder than being a pastry chef?
It was difficult. It was sad, to leave a career, and, I hope, I will get back into it eventually, just take a little break for now, but it was hard to transition. You're constantly going and going and going, and banquets and all this busy stuff to kind of just at home.
Oh, I can understand that. Chef Francine, do you want to ask any questions of our panelists?
I would love to. So how you doing? First of all, I'm Francine Mars. I'm the director here at Northampton Community College. I've been here 4 years now. We've done a lot of changes here and have really grown the curriculum. But what's one thing that you took away while being at school? Like, what's one of the biggest lessons you took away while being in the culinary program?
Never tell someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Very good advice. Anybody else?
I think just the foundations definitely set me apart from my peers moving up through my classes. Knowing my mother sauces, as silly as that may seem, definitely made me more advocate for moving up faster.
Yeah, be prepared for hard work.
Sarah, anything?
I mean, I probably say about the same as Luke. It really set a really good foundation of the basics of everything you really needed to do. And also I was in school with the Chef Scott era with the, time to lean, time to clean, and all those kind of sayings that he had.
Yes.
So those really kind of
Scott
stick
was
with you
definitely
too.
very influential.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he
And
was.
Chef Tyler, now that you're on the other side teaching, what's one thing that you took away that you now really enforce in the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, just attention to detail and really paying attention to the building blocks, from the very first day of the program all the way up until the last day. There's always little things to pick up on, whether it's from your instructors or from your peers or from other classmates in a different portion of the program. We all have so much to bring to the table, and from different backgrounds and different life experiences, and all of those things help to, create the team that we build as a class, as a program, just as a college. And all of those things are the things that help us excel in the future, whether it's with, having good contacts and helping people get jobs, or, fitting in, the right skill set for somebody for the long
thought
term.
we leave at 2:32? No, I'm saying you thought we leave at 2:30. No, we have to stay.
All right, so the one other question I have is that a lot of folks, I'm sure, have, while you're either before you were attending or during your attending, you were figuring out, well, should I go to community college or should I go to like a CIA or Johnson Wales? What made you go to Northampton, and what was your determining factor?
For me, it was the reputation of the program. And definitely meeting Chef Scott and Chef Duncan at the time was what really kind of, set the tone for what was ahead of me, and great experience. I can't say anything better.
Yeah, I think just the notoriety of the program and, the track record that it has and continues to have, really sets the tone for the caliber of students that we get, and the caliber of education that we provide. And, seeing the proof when you have people graduate the program and they're out in industry and they're, making a name for themselves, that, we all get to pat ourselves on the back for that. And, having it be right in our backyard, and it's affordable and it is very all encompassing, and the knowledge that you gain here is second to none. So that part was one of the things that really drove me to, to attend the program.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I could say the same. I mean, I heard about the Hampton Winds and Scott, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I mean, I could say, like, over the years, I've worked with Johnson Wales students, and I've worked with CIA students, and I've worked with Northampton students, and the Northampton students were by far the most, I want to say, like, hungry. All the other, they were all just, they went to CIA, they went to Johnson Wales. They all felt like they should be labeled, like chef right out of school. But I mean, I'm sorry, like, you need to work, and like, like, I like that about them. So, and I mean, the program itself, I mean, I went in the early 2000s, so it was only a 1-year program. I'm sure the program now is, I mean, so much better and so much more knowledge going on there than it was when I was going.
It's interesting that you say that, because we've made a tremendous amount of changes. And I know, Tyler, if you want to speak to some of the stuff that's different than than when you were a student here as to compared to now?
Yeah, it was a great program before. I think all of the things that need to be fine tuned and, polished a little bit to make sure that we're sending the appropriate workforce out into the world is what, the changes that have been made, that's what you see now. You see better attention to detail about appropriate skills. We're not doing stuff that people don't really see anymore. We're, kind of bringing the program up to, the current times and really focusing on new techniques and understanding, how we get from A to B and how we can utilize that with all the stuff that's going on around us, whether it's community driven or whether it's, being sustainable with local purveyors and things like that. Like all of these things have now been implemented into the program, and those weren't really there before. It was kind of a hustle to get into the restaurant class and, and then just basically working as we were at school. Whereas now the focus is much more on learning, with the restaurant kind of being a secondary thing, because that's still a necessary skill that every student needs to learn, but there's not quite as much pressure on that as there was before.
We also did a $750,000 renovation into Hampton Winds and also the kitchen itself. So restaurant looks absolutely beautiful, extremely modern. It's not a 90s ski lodge anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with ski lodges. And then we have also a very modernized kitchen with flexible heat lamps, in addition to all new equipment on the front line. And then pretty much every piece of equipment in that kitchen is pretty much brand new within the last 3 to 4 years. So that's something I can proudly say, in addition to bringing on Tyler, and we've got a full-time pastry chef in addition to Cindy Litzenberger, who's been focusing on the students. In addition to operations, we've got an operations chef who's also an alumni along with Cindy. And then, like I said, we also have a restaurant manager, and myself. So we've got a really, I think, a great team with a good dynamic that's very much student focused and student centered, and is really reflective of what I think the industry needs right now. What's one thing that you wish you would have learned, or potentially thing you've learned out in the industry that you wish you would have learned in school?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I
I
think
can say it for me, and when I went to Johnson Wales, I wish I would have done more with plating, which is why really make sure that we spend a lot of time with, when I teach the classes, that they are able to experiment and really push the envelope with their own creativity and plating styles, because sometimes they do a better job at it than I do. So I also learn a lot from the students. Anybody else?
I think for me a little bit, and I know we did get a good sample size of it, but especially in my current position, a lot of the financial pieces, the inventory, cost control, labor control, and it can be the boring stuff, of course, but it's what my salary is based on basically now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with him with that. It was the whole back of the house stuff, because I was told by a chef in my career that cooking is the easy part. And I never understood what it was until I had to run my own kitchen. Cooking is the absolute most easiest part of this job. It's doing all the P&L reports and stuff like that. That's just so tedious that, yeah, so I would have to agree with that one.
Yeah, the food doesn't talk back, which is the best thing about cooking, but everybody else around you does. So it's not only the financials, but also I think the management piece too, which is what we're trying to incorporate a little bit more of the financials and in the management piece. Anything else, Dan, Sarah?
No, I agree with Luke. That's definitely a great one.
Yeah, that was definitely a piece I was missing, of a big shock when getting into the, big resort areas with, they hand me a P&L report and I have no idea what I'm looking at, like that kind of stuff that was a big shock.
And then what about Surf Safe? What is your, I know we all have to have it, and what, how important is it to your everyday lives in the industry?
For us, it's tremendous. We actually, our bonuses are based on a wing of Ecolab, the EcoShore audits. Anybody that's familiar with those. So we get those quarterly, and if we don't score above a 95, we get docked points. We also deal with a ton of allergies, being a family resort. I probably go 25 to 30 allergies a day, and they're not just gluten-free, they're compound allergies. So majority of my staff is not just ServSafe, but also ServSafe allergen trained, myself included, of course.
Yeah, agreed. It's tremendous in what we do, especially in the times we're living in now. It's very important to have that education kind of before you start anything else. You have to have that understanding.
So that's a great question, Larry. I was just getting ready to ask that question. What advice do all of you NCC alumni have for any of the career and technical students, but also that are on the call, but also the culinary students that are in the program, or any potential students that I have on the call as well? We'll just go round robin. Luke, go ahead.
All right. I don't want to jump in there. For me, it's definitely get as much education as you can. You have some great instructors. I had some really great instructors at Votech. I had some really great instructors when I went through NCC, and I came up with some really great chefs. And, I was I was annoying to the point where I was asking questions so much, but I am here today. So, I think it benefited me. Whatever you can get out of the program, it's really on you. The instructors will get you the 90, you need to get the rest of the 10%.
Okay, what about you, Sarah? Any advice?
My advice, I think, would just be, just keep going. I mean, there's times in this career where you're burnt out, you're frustrated, you're having issues, whatever it is, but to me, it's really worth it. At the end of the day, at the end of the month, whatever it is, trying to get through the holidays or anything like that, when you get towards the end, it's worth it. So it's just kind of, everybody has those days in this career. You just kind of got to push through it.
Dan?
Take every opportunity you can to learn, whether it's when you started as a dishwasher, or you're a line cook or a prep cook. Just if you're not learning or it's not being shown to you, then take the initiative to ask to learn, ask the questions. Like Luke said, keep poking, keep prodding, because that's definitely the way you're going to learn and succeed. And remember that everyone around you plays a role in your success, not just you, but everyone you work with. Even at home, everyone plays a role in your success.
Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, would reiterate pretty much all the same stuff. Pay attention to the little things. Sometimes those are the things that everybody takes for granted, and those are typically the traits and characteristics of people that help you get that promotion and get that that extra responsibility to get you what may turn into extra money, or more learning, more ability to learn. And it just opens up your eyes to what really is all out there for us to to attach to and to find common ground with.
And Brett?
I'd have to say the whole learning thing, take what you can from each job and implement it to yourself. And so when you get to be able to run a kitchen, you at least have the tools to succeed. Yeah, you probably will make mistakes. I mean, I did, but you have to learn from your mistakes. You're never going to be given anything. You're never going to just have to go into a job and just, you gotta grind for it, and it's definitely going to be rough, but that's it.
So Brett, you just also recently opened up a restaurant in Macungie, is that correct? A pizzeria?
Yeah,
And
pizzeria.
can you tell us a little bit about that and where it's located?
It is on Main Street in Macungie. We opened Easter weekend of this year, and it's been rough, more or less, just because of whatever's going on nowadays. With like food cost and shortage of workers. So, it's definitely a very difficult situation now with everything is so expensive, and profit margins and all that stuff, and people calling off work, and you can't even find people to work, period. So, who has to pick up the slack? But we do. So it's definitely very, very challenging. But at the same time, I mean, I love the challenge. I like, this is just what I do. I've been doing it forever. So just take it on the chin and just go with it.
Fantastic. So we have a question from someone in the call. So in your opinion, what are some of the qualities a person should possess to be able to succeed in the culinary world? Anybody have any advice?
A calm demeanor, being understanding that everybody is, has a different skill set and a different background, and different ways that they learn and soak up things. So just being very flexible with that. Certainly I've understood that much more as of late, just dealing with students with different backgrounds and different skill sets, but that translates into the workforce, just the same.
Anybody else?
For me,
Yeah,
I'd
I mean,
say,
I feel like Tyler's right with that whole thing. When you're, there's bosses and there's leaders. I feel like you should be a leader instead of barking orders at people. Like Tyler said, every person's different. It's not 1990. You can't go around screaming at people, throwing things at people. I mean, you can't do that anymore. Every person has their own way of thinking and the way of handling things and the way of talking to them and getting through to each person.
Dan?
I would say ownership. Take ownership in your learning, take ownership in what you're doing, take ownership in those around you succeeding, because that's really a driving force. You surround yourself with good people.
Luke or Sarah, anything else?
For me, I think kind of just sum it up in one word is integrity. I think you need to be true to yourself. I think you need to realize what you're capable of, and to really get through. And, it takes a lot of, well, I guess I'd add humility to that too, but, to walk into a new kitchen, especially, and say, I don't know how to do that, especially when you start getting up into managerial roles, that can be very challenging.
I think definitely too, and this might be more of the pastry world, but for us, we definitely need people who are organized, focused. They can, really, if I wasn't there for the day, they could figure it out themselves. They had everything down right. And because if you're not organized, you're not focused, you're going to have a real hard time.
Yeah, and I would add to that about, not being afraid of hard work, and also being able to adapt to change, because, we're changing on a daily basis, and I think it's gotten even worse with COVID, and I know we're hopefully getting on the other side of this, but it will continue to have effects with that. So the next question is that, do you have any advice on finding an internship experience or a mentor? We all know that everyone is hiring, but how do you find the right experience or the internship experience, or how do you find the right mentor? Anybody have any comments or suggestions on that?
Well, I mean, I think the beauty of today's world is you have the ability of, social media and things like that. And, just your group of, friends that you associate with, and maybe your work comrades, you just ask around, say, hey, what's out there? And then, you start to ask people who may have already had employment there or currently work there, and just, be open and honest, say, hey, this is something that I'm looking for. Would this be a good fit for me? And, just understanding your expectations, and that sometimes they may not be realistic, but do your homework ahead of time, and, find somebody who has the same beliefs as you, and, stands for the same kinds of things that you do, and all the other stuff, I believe, will work itself out.
Anyone else?
I would piggyback what Tyler said 100%. Today's market is definitely, a lot of open options for sure, where I think when most of us were in the industry, there was a little bit more competitive on the employee side versus employer. But you need to really know what you want. And if go for that, find somebody that's willing to teach you, especially. Don't be in a situation where you're not learning every day, or at least you have someone even if it's not the chef or whoever you work for, it's, a sous chef or a peer that's a little more experienced, that's willing to take the time to spend it with you to show you what you don't know, ask the questions, etc.
Anybody else? And I have one more last question for everybody. It's, how have your goals changed since you were in school up till now? And, what did you originally want to do as compared to what you're currently doing now, or what the future holds?
I mean, I, for one, I feel like I'm right on track to accomplishing the things that I, set out to do. I wanted to work in the industry at private restaurants and kind of make a name for myself. And when I ended up attending the program, I knew probably my first or second week here that at some point teaching was going to be, hopefully the last step for me. And, I made that happen. But, I think always having aspirations to learn more and to do more and to, help other people do more and become better has really been the model for me now. And now I have, the perfect outlet to be able to do that. And, giving people the best opportunity to succeed and to gain as much knowledge as possible is where I'm at.
Anyone else?
I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat as Tyler. Like I set out, once I realized I couldn't really do the culinary world and wanted to start doing pastry, my goal was, to become pastry chef and, move up enough that I became, took over a pretty large casino, resort and banquets and all that kind of stuff. So I was pretty happy where I was. I think that's about where my goal was. I mean, of course, I always still want to learn more. There's different aspects. There's so many different things of pastry that, there's of course different things that I would like to learn still and still perfect, but it's pretty happy where I ended up.
Anybody else? Dan, Luke, Brett?
Yeah, myself included. I mean, I say it's been a crazy journey. Definitely ups and downs, but that's part of the job and that's part of the industry. And I'm thrilled with where I'm at now. I've always, wanted to be true farm to table and be able to be that person that goes out and talks to the farmer and shakes their hand and buys their food and sees the end result with the people we serve. It's just, it's a great scenario. I love it.
Yeah, just to add that in a little bit. My end goal was always executive chef of a resort. I got there, so I kind of was like, oh, what now? And luckily I had a great team above me, and now they're pushing me to move up, keep going director, keep going towards the corporate level of, menu development and that level. So.
That's great. And Brett, are you stopping at the pizza shop, or are you going to continue to grow?
I mean, yeah, I definitely want to continue to grow. Absolutely. I mean, maybe we sell it at some point. Maybe we don't. I mean, I don't know. But if we don't sell it, I mean, I would like to have my kids work there, when they get old enough. I mean, if we sell it, move on to something else. I mean, I'm game for anything. I mean, I just don't like staying in the same spot. I don't like that. So always try to move forward.
Yeah, chefs, we don't ever let grass grow under our feet. That's for sure. So any last words of wisdom or anything anybody wants to add before we close this down here? No? Well, I definitely appreciate everybody being here on the call. And Karen, do you want to take it from here?
Sure. I don't know if we have any prospective students on this call, but we do have one of our admissions counselors on with us, Kayla Lacey. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to her at Northampton, or you can type into our chat. She's saying hi in the chat. Kayla, yeah, there you go. Kay Lacey at northampton.edu. And of course, you can reach out to Chef Cindy Litzenberger or Chef Francine Mars as well. I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here, especially our chef alumni. We're proud of you. I know Chef Francine is proud of you. I know Chef Scott is proud of you. And we hope you'll continue to stay engaged with the college. And we look forward to doing more of these. And I also want to thank Chef Francine and Chef Cindy, Chef Tyler, and the rest of the gang on the culinary staff for their continued support of all of our career development efforts and recruiting.
No,
and retention.
we had an interesting day. We had the Japanese delegates come in today. So Tyler and the chefs were busy making lunch for everyone, and we had to jump off to go to one call and then go to this call. So I will say that there's never a dull moment here, not only in our culinary program, but just in the culinary industry as a whole. So, you know, if you like that fast pace and you like to really stay busy and just continue to grow, this is the, I think, the best industry for you. So I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking part of your day to be here with us, but especially the alumni, because I know you're very busy, and the students as well, and potential and prospective students. Thank you. We'll make sure we get
Thank
this
you.
sent out to all the folks that couldn't join us.
Thank you for having me.